So far, Xi Jinping was an arbitrary dictator. Henceforth, he'll be a complete dictator. That's how one analyst has described today's developments in China. Hundreds of carefully handpicked officials were brought under one roof to rubber stamp the complete and unlimited authority of President Xi Jinping. It was a carefully orchestrated political meeting called to ratify decisions that were taken months ago. A new super body called the National Supervision Commission, also described as a fig leaf of legitimacy, gives the president unrestricted powers above any law in the Constitution of China to detain any citizen of that country. It's a 2-week-long event, and the message from day one was very clear. China was told to follow the leader.
It's the world's largest legislative session, involving nearly 3,000 delegates from across China's provinces, regions and forces. As the 13th National People's Congress opened in the Great Hall of the People in Beijing on Monday, the focus was crystal clear, allowing this man to rule indefinitely. President Xi Jinping is already China's strongest leader in generations, and now he's on the cusp of having greater power than any Chinese leader since Mao Zedong. So when Chinese Premier Li Keqiang kicked off the potentially momentous summit, he instructed Communist Party officials to follow their sovereign Xi Jinping in thought, word and deed.
Over the past 5 years, we have worked with dedication to implement the decisions and plans made by the party's Central Committee with Comrade Xi at the core. We have maintained a principle of pursuing progress while ensuring stability and developing new approaches to macro regulation.
Last week, it became clear that Xi Jinping will use this year's Congress to abolish presidential term limits, a move that paves the way for him to reign for life if he chooses. The vote on the proposal to scrap the 2-term limit will take place on the 11th of March and is expected to be unanimously approved. While Xi's power play will be the highlight of the National People's Congress, it's certainly not the only big-ticket headline. China announced a defense budget of $175 billion. That's an 8.1% hike. The increased spending indicates China's strategic ambitions as it continues to modernize the world's largest army and develop its infrastructure in contested areas like the South China Sea and its Himalayan border regions. The spending increase will further unnerve China's regional rivals, but it's 4 times less than the $603 billion US defense budget. The government said it will focus on 3 main areas in the coming year: tackling China's exposure to financial risk, bringing down pollution and combating poverty. A target of 6.5% has been set for the world's second largest economy. That's slightly lower than the 6.9% growth achieved in 2017. And even as China lays out financial ambitions, a potential trade war looms with the US. Either way, the challenges for China's soon-to-be limitless president are huge. How long will Xi remain in power is perhaps not as significant a question as what it will mean for the global order, especially considering that China is growing more assertive by the day and there is hardly any meaningful opposition to it. Bureau Report, WION.
The implications, as you can well imagine, go far beyond China. The great game is well and truly on. 2 Asian giants, India and China, are now vying for influence in the wider Indian Ocean region. If China has what is known as the string of pearls, strategic assets dotting the region, India is fast building up its capabilities in what is described by some as a string of flowers. WION's Ramesh Ramachandran pieces together the jigsaw.
It is so small that it's easy to miss it on the map. Reunion is a French territory in the Indian Ocean, located east of Madagascar and southwest of Mauritius. For a tiny island, Reunion possesses a gigantic strategic significance for France and now possibly India. Reunion houses one of France's largest naval bases. France is in talks with India for giving Indian warships access to its facilities on Reunion Island. New Delhi hopes to clinch the agreement during President Emmanuel Macron's visit to India this week. If the deal comes through, Indian naval presence could extend to the French bases at Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates and Djibouti. Djibouti, located in the Horn of Africa, is home to the United States' permanent military base, as well as bases belonging to France, Italy, Japan and China. China formally opened its base in Djibouti in August last year, on the same day that the People's Liberation Army celebrated its 90th anniversary. India counts France as among its trusted strategic partners, and Macron's visit to India can be expected to cement the relationship. Reunion has another Indian connection. It is home to people of Indian origin who were brought as indentured labor from India in the 19th century. The significance of the proposed India-France agreement lies in the India-China rivalry in the wider Indian Ocean region. Chinese presence in India's backyard, complete with listening posts and radar installations, has raised the anxieties of defense planners in New Delhi. With China increasing its footprint in Myanmar's Koko Islands and Kya Up-Kyu, Bangladesh's Chittagong, Hambantota in Sri Lanka, and Gwadar in Pakistan, among others, India is raising its profile by stitching up strategic pacts with countries in the region and beyond. For instance, India has signed a logistics pact with the United States, which gives Indian ships access to American bases in the Indian Ocean region. India is developing the Chabahar port in Iran to counter Chinese presence at Gwadar in neighboring Pakistan. Recently, Oman agreed to allow the Indian Navy to use its facility at Duqm. India has agreements in place with Mauritius and Seychelles. In the east, India is helping Myanmar develop the Sitwe port. India has stepped up engagement with Vietnam, and Singapore has reached an understanding with India on the use of Changi Naval Base, which will allow Indian ships to dock, refuel and, if required, rearm on their operations in the Indo-Pacific region, which includes the contested waters of South China Sea. Ramesh Ramachandran, WION.